Hi guys, I hope you're having an amazing day today. In this video, I'm going to be doing a twin flame energy check-in reading. There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the raspberry aura quartz. Group 2 is the clear quartz. And group 3 is the seraphinite. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups, or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to, I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the raspberry aura quartz. So I'm going to start by looking into what are your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and your connection right now. Okay, so we have mending, to be fair, between worlds, and truth be told. Yeah, so there's a sense here if you've been in separation or no contact with your twin flame. They've been doing some work behind the scenes to kind of come face to face, maybe in a way that wasn't even of their choosing, but they've been sort of forced, maybe facing some roadblocks or obstacles, or they're very stuck at this point in time to face some kind of wounding within that had at some point in time led to things unraveling between the two of you that's manifested in some way, shape, or form in their life in a different capacity. I'm hearing masks off with this truth be told energy. So it feels like something where they may be confronted at this point in time with people that they'd given their loyalties or allegiances to, and they're seeing those people's true colors. These may be people that had interfered with the connection in the past, had kind of like undermined the connection, and there's a sense of they regret taking those people's advice. They regret, kind of sticking with those individuals and not choosing to fight for the connection with you, or choosing to walk away in order to make other people happy. And they're seeing like those people didn't really have my best interests in mind. They were just trying to control me. I was just a pawn in their game. They may have been discarded by certain people. And so now they're feeling kind of foolish. They're in this sort of 5 of Pentacles energy kind of out in the cold. And so it feels like it's something that the work that they've been doing to kind of like come to terms with this for themselves, it's causing them to have a lot of reflection towards you, towards the situation with you, as they are growing and evolving, or having to like lick their wounds or move off in another direction in their life entirely, or even come to terms with how certain interpersonal relationships need to be kind of like seen for what they are, and their level of like what they're pouring into those individuals, how much time they're spending with those individuals, or the way in which they'd kind of prioritize those individuals, how that's needing to change. It's helping them see that they were kind of investing themselves in the wrong thing all along. These weren't people that had kind of, been naysayers towards the connection. Maybe they didn't know about you. They didn't have anything to say about this. We're kind of just people in your twin flame's life. There's a sense that it may lead to like inner child wounding, where the love that you had to offer, or the type of connection that you had with one another in the past, or could have had with one another in the past, it's almost like they rejected it because it felt so different in a healthy way compared to what they were used to, what they were brought up to expect, or kind of like a degree of comfortable chaos that registered with their ego as like normal, and then you were offering something that was more balanced, more peaceful, you were more accepting of them as they were, and this feels like something where they just kind of like pushed you away because it was such a departure from everything that they had come to believe about themselves, their worthiness to receive love and affection, or how they should like show up in interpersonal relationships. That again, this idea of like the masks are off, and they're seeing some of these people that had kind of created these beliefs in them, either through what they were taught or just how they were treated, what might have been modeled for them growing up, as far as, you know, marriage or family structures and dynamics. There's a sense of them seeing like that there's something very wrong with that situation. And the more that they are understanding kind of how wrong that was, and how that's affected the ways in which they maybe haven't taken risks in their life. They've held back from moving towards what they really want. They've been concerned about other people's opinions of them and how they're living their life and how they're showing up. That in some sort of way, they're able to now connect the dots back to the experience with you, and like, you were something good. You were something healthy. You offered them an invitation for something more, and they pushed this away or rejected it because they had no idea that they were kind of just unconsciously very loyal to a certain degree of toxicity or artificiality or like unhealthy connections. And so this is a sense of almost somebody that is reaching a place of trying to heal some of that inner child wounding, or some of those kind of like wounds as far as love is concerned. This might have even been like a heartbreak from the past that they kind of just, they were told to just sort of like push on, just move forward, you know, don't dwell, don't linger too long, like, you know, just kind of replace that space of emptiness with another person. And so they never took the time to heal. And they may have almost kind of gauged the situation with you by a wounded lens, or it could have even been something where they just assumed like, oh, you're just going to hurt me like this other person, so I'm going to protect myself from that potential of hurt, and I'm just going to push you away. I'm going to reject you. I'm not going to accept this connection. And it's something where that has now been kind of brought to their attention in some sort of way, where they're feeling sort of foolish for allowing that woundedness or those unhealthy patterns to kind of play puppet master in the circumstance with you. But then there's also a sense of them kind of like healing some of that within, which it feels like is starting to kind of give them some sort of spark or hope of a possibility that like, maybe it's not too late for us to pick up where we left off, to try again, to get the connection started for the first time. If this was kind of like a false start, or, you know, something that was very just sort of temporary or short-lived, but there is an understanding that like they need to go through this process here of kind of like working through these wounds, even just in the sense of looking at them for what they are, naming them, addressing them, facing that shadow and kind of integrating it in order to be able to bring something towards you that is more long lasting, or is more honest, or is deeper, or is healthier than what they were, how they were capable of showing up for you in the past. So let's take a look at some of these blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they are dealing with right now or attempting to work through. Okay, we have love begins, material harvest, and foundations and achievements. Yeah, so this is somebody that is recognizing that a lot of things in their life just mimic the patterns of what they were taught at home. That they are just in some way replicating a familiar degree of toxicity that, based on this kind of model, which has been written into the code of like their, you know, their inner child, their subconscious, into their shadow, as far as like normal chaos, you know, a healthy level of disappointment or discombobulation, that there's a sense that what you offered was something that felt like peace. It felt like tranquility. It felt like something that would be a big departure from everything that they've known, or that they'd been kind of taught was sort of the most that they could expect, all they were worthy of and deserving of. It's like you offered something where this person was not pedestalized in an unhealthy way, but there was like a healthy level of respect between the two of you, and that felt so foreign to them that they flinched. They sabotaged this connection. They ran away. They didn't fight for this situation. And they're seeing that at this point in time, even though they may have a lot of what they want, materially speaking, they may have like success in terms of their career, in terms of finances, in terms of like their material surroundings, there's like a void space within that all this stuff, all these things, all of these kind of accolades and achievements, it doesn't fill that kind of aspect within that you, even without giving them anything more than just your attention, your time, your energy, your effort, your presence, that fulfilled them on like a deeper level than all the money in the world. And so there's a sense of almost them really questioning, not that they would trade one for the other, but it's kind of like, what made me believe that I couldn't have both, that I couldn't have the best of both worlds, that it needed to be an either or kind of situation. Made it something where they were, the feelings that they had for you. There could have been a sense within of sort of like, I've got to accomplish certain things in my material world. I'm not ready to settle down. That kind of ideas about like love only slows you down. Love will get you hurt. Love will get you used. Love will get you betrayed. Unhealthy beliefs like that may have been passed on to them or were the product of kind of wounded experiences in romance with other people, that now they've come to a place of seeing you had good intentions for them. You're being very authentic. What you were offering, it didn't come with strings attached. It's something that because of like where they're at in their life right now, there's a sense of kind of like feeling that they've deprived themselves and you in some sort of way of like the fullness of what you could have had with one another. They're definitely in this vicinity of like woulda, coulda, shoulda, a lot of lamentation, a lot of regrets. There's a sense of like, I could have built my kingdom with you by my side. I could only imagine how much more beautiful my life would be right now if I had kept you close, if I had fought for this connection. And we were building this empire together as opposed to being in our separate worlds and doing our own thing. But there's a sense of like, I can't turn back the hands of time, but I don't know how to like move forward to you at this point in time because I've already created the belief within you through my words, through my actions or my inactions that what you had to give wasn't good enough. And so there's almost like with this guy with his head down and these people with their back turned, there's a lot of shame that this person feels. They're very ashamed of assuming that you were only wanting to take advantage of them, assuming that the kind of like emotional piece that you were offering was somehow unsafe, was dangerous, would have like undermined them as a person or their success in some sort of way, because they're seeing through the illusion of like, well, where did I come up with that belief? If it was like an inner child wound in some sort of way, there's almost a sense of seeing, again, like certain people in their life, certain relatives or even like close friends, and kind of just wanting that they might have wanted to kind of blend in with the way relationships look like to other people. And they're seeing like those are fundamentally unhappy people. They're really not living a life that I would want. And yet I find myself in the midst of having created something like that for myself. And I get it now. I'm walking a mile in these people's shoes and they are miserable. They're miserable inside. They're sick in their soul. Whatever they have, whatever, power they think they have, whatever kind of titles they think they have, whatever achievements they think they have accomplished in this life, there's a distinct sense of absence within. It's like cardboard. There's nothing there. There's nothing kind of beyond that facade or that veneer that is worthwhile. And so there's a sense of having to kind of come to terms with that pushing away the circumstance with you, there's almost a sense of like you were this golden ticket to a different kind of life. Maybe different goals would have been reachable. Maybe you encouraged this person to reach for bigger dreams and they gave themselves permission to, and now there's a regret. Like, I've got all this success in my life, but those dreams are still just hovering around again in that area of woulda, coulda, shoulda. There's also a sense of like, now they're at a place in their life where, yeah, people are only coming towards them to use them. People are only coming towards them to kind of align with this sort of presentation of success. People only want them for what they have. You were someone who wanted them for who they are. And so there's a sense that they're really struggling with that. Or is it even possible to have another chance with you? Can this be course corrected? They got all these feelings inside, and it's like people in their life right now wouldn't understand these things. It's almost like they're having a hard time finding, even if they've tried to find like other romantic partners or date very casually, it's like these other people are just, they're a reflection of that emptiness that they chose to be aligned with. It's like the depth of their feeling couldn't even fit within these like empty or shallow vessels in human form that they are coming into contact with, that they're coming into alignment with. You were a real and genuine person. You were offering them something that felt scary because it's real. And in the midst of this kind of artificial, this fake life that they have around these fake people, there's a sense of feeling like they really failed some sort of test in this life. They threw away a diamond and they've chosen glass. They chose a cubic zirconia over a diamond. So let's take a look and see what their potential actions are towards you. Okay, we have community and temple path. So this feels like your twin flame is definitely going to start going deeper into this period of introspection. The more they start to kind of look at these wounds, face some uncomfortable truths, kind of come to terms with the nature of life as it is right now, based on choices that they've made, things they didn't heal before or didn't even know that they needed to heal. This may just be like part of their spiritual journey, like to give them the benefit of the doubt. This may not just be someone that was like, oh, I've got this woundedness, but I'm just going to sweep it under the rug. I'm not going to do anything about it. This may have been something where they couldn't see that for themselves. They couldn't see the forest through the trees. They didn't have like the proper tools, the proper life experience to name or identify what was going on. They were in the midst of the pattern. They needed to come to this place of almost like getting everything they want, but then also feeling that hollowness inside to be able to look around and perceive that kind of contrast. And now's the point where they finally have free will. They finally have a choice because now they can see. You either wallow in that misery or you do the best and hardest thing that you could ever do, which is search for a way to try and do something different, to try and do something better, to try and course correct, not just with you, but with other areas of their life in general. It feels like they're going to go further into that process of like, okay, knowing what I know now, what can I do different? How can I set better boundaries with people that I now see don't align with a best version of me? They align with me as a pawn, me as just a player in their game, or me as someone who has served their purpose and has been discarded. And now I'm on my own. Now I'm in this like lone wolf kind of energy. Now what? And so a way to almost create a pathway towards the possibility of like reconciliation, or at least creating some closure between the two of you energetically, or actually if it's something where you've already moved on or you're not open to kind of exploring anything more with them in this lifetime, there's a sense of almost like now a journey begins for them as far as meeting who they really are, who they want to become. irrespective of whatever they've been in the past, whatever that wounding has kind of dictated for them. It's like, okay, that's said and done. I can't do that anymore. I can only cry over spilt milk for so long. Now what? Now where do I go from this point forward? Like, everything starts today. So from here forward, now what do I do? That's something that it feels like is going to, there may be more activity between the two of you in kind of the higher realms. You may be feeling their higher self. They may be coming to you in dreams. There may be a lot of connection in that meditative state or in that energetic space, which can be taken as evidence by you that they are in the midst of some kind of profound transformation. They are up-leveling. They are metamorphosizing. They are not the same person that you remember. But in order to have like movement in the 3D, it's got to take place in that energetic space. They've got to sit in that energy of like the stark reality as it is for them in order to be able to kind of look around and say, well, what can I do? How can I build forward from this? Maybe it's reaching out with an apology. Maybe it's, looking inside and like, how can I become a better person? How can I consciously train myself through repetition again and again and again to keep looking at those patterns, to not ignore it, to not just fall unconsciously in it, to give myself grace if I do find myself slipping back into that pattern, slipping back into that typecast reality, feeling those feelings of indignation, anger, disappointment in themselves and others. All of that elevates them in some sort of way to a more conscious version of themselves, which it feels like brings them one step closer to making peace with you, to creating like not just a fresh start or like let's try again, but something that really involves almost like an entirely new opportunity because they become an entirely new person through this level of awareness within. So it may be something where they kind of like seek out guidance, seek out advice. Maybe they, find resources online. Maybe they, for some, they seek therapy. They seek help, self-help. Even, again, like boundaries and barriers with influences and people that are not aligning with the type of life they want to have. Cutting out all those distractions, seeking out new community or, their own company if they can't find anybody that's on this same plane of understanding as them. And all of that, it feels like, is a way to kind of bridge the gap between the two of you. So it feels like there may be like a continued kind of period of no contact, but it's definitely like for every sort of step they take forward within themselves, they're able to kind of pinpoint with you the experience they've had with you of kind of like, okay, this contributed to how I've rejected these other things or how I've like moved in a particular way. And I don't like kind of the result of where I find myself. So that relates to the circumstance with you, with other opportunities they've had and missed, or, they had and they sabotaged in their life. All of that's a process of kind of elevating and up-leveling in some sort of way to kind of bring a new version of them to the surface. That further down the line, that version of them is the one that's able to come in with fresh energy, is able to kind of like come forth and sort of do everything that they wish they had done before, but to do it right. So let's get some guidance from Spirit. Okay, we have inner peace. Yeah, so this is encouraging you to just be very zen about this situation. Trust in what you feel emotionally that is kind of in your best interest. If you're kind of trying to purge this situation, you're trying to grieve it and kind of close out that cycle of grieving and move forth towards other things, sort of welcome in fulfillment for yourself in other ways in your life, or like concentrate on the things that are going well as opposed to giving so much power away to kind of sitting in that mental space of almost like, well, what are they doing? Are they coming? If I'm doing the work within, are they keeping up? Like, where are they in their journey? Trust that you're both in these kind of deeper emotional waters at this point in time. You're essentially like walking these parallel paths at this moment, and so it's okay to allow yourself to acknowledge when you feel these kind of bursts of energy from them. You're picking up on their catharsis, almost breakthroughs, times where, maybe they're needing to kind of grieve or sit in the energy of disappointment, versus times where they're having these experiences of kind of like victory or something uplifting. Don't sort of let that determine if you open your heart to other people, or you're kind of like waiting for this individual to sort of come back around. Continue to sort of follow your own inner compass towards the experiences that life presents you, or that you feel inclined to kind of go after in terms of new things, new vibrations, a new climate within yourself, and also in the world as you are experiencing it or living it outwardly. And that this is something that at this point in time, it feels like you and your twin flame are very aligned in that sense. You're swimming in those same kind of deep emotional waters, but you each have like a different technique for that, different things that you're needing to sort of experience or learn, or kind of go through in order to come to this place where, it's not going to feel so awkward to be in the presence of that higher level love that is actively being created within each of you through your continued willingness and bravery to kind of sit within those difficult emotions, to face things as they are, to allow that kind of idea of like masks off and the uncomfortable experience of that vulnerability, or illusions that kind of dissipate, and you're seeing the truth of people and circumstances and yourself. Go through the full range of emotions. Don't try to stuff anything down or shame yourself for anything, and trust that it's like an organic process that's taking place through that kind of ascension plane. But now you're both really in this territory of like, you finally have free will. You've activated that. You continue to kind of step further into that the more you are willing, to allow yourself to kind of shift and evolve and adapt and grow with the experiences that are shown around you, in the interest of actively kind of seeking out better dynamics for yourself that mirror the type of energies you want to experience for yourselves, and perhaps even ultimately in the future with one another, through being very honest about like, are the people I'm participating with, is the internal world, the narrative that I have spinning around in my head, is this the equivalent of the best version of myself? Do I feel good? Do I feel celebrated? Do I feel seen? Or do I feel confined? Do I feel objectified in some sort of way? And if so, what can I do in order to change that? Because we can't change other people, we can only change ourselves. So there's definitely a sense here of, continuing along that path of sort of feeling your full range of feelings, trust that your twin flame is involved in some aspect of doing this within his or her own life as well at this particular point in time. And you're both kind of in this unique experience right now of sort of going against the grain, pushing against the current in some sort of way, as opposed to just kind of unconsciously going with the flow of different things in your own lives. And so this will bring you to a place within yourselves, and eventually possibly with each other, being able to have more emotional honesty, more of a reciprocal and kind of healthier connection. But you each have to continue kind of going through your process in regards to that individually first. So let's get some message cards and see what they want you to know right now from their higher self. Okay, and we have, I don't know how to approach you. Yeah, so there's a sense that they do want to talk to you. They do want to reach out. They want to tell you of the things that they've learned, the things that they know, the ways in which they are attempting to grow and evolve and change, but they're in the midst of that right now. So this is somebody that doesn't just want to provide you with kind of emptiness or more confusion than has, on top of whatever's been the case in the past. So it's almost like, I'll fight in the interest of our future by holding back a little bit longer in the present. They also say, yeah, I'm not ready to talk. So it feels like most of their free time, a lot of their emotional energy, their psychic energy, their intellectual energy, that's invested in kind of taking a good hard look in the mirror, something that may be very necessary, or they finally surrendered to the need to do that. They can't just keep blaming other people, other circumstances. They can't keep burying their head in the sand, or playing the games that other people had sort of put them into, or that they'd kind of just been born into. If these are, family dynamics and like inner child wounding, there's a sense that they're needing to kind of move their own way. They're needing to take a stand. They're needing to kind of rewrite their role in other people's narratives. They're needing to sort of claim their power as the main character in their own story, as opposed to a side character in other people's dynamics. And so that is like taking precedence at this time for them to be able to kind of come forth to you, not just with the same experience that you had before, but something that kind of really pushes things up to the next level between the two of you. They also say, I still carry a spark for you. Yeah, so there are feelings that they want to express. There's a lot of regret over what's happened in the past. It feels like you are one of their deepest regrets now that they're able to kind of have a bird's eye perspective on different things, that they were operating out of a place of woundedness. They were trying to follow in the footsteps of people who are just fundamentally miserable as people, and kind of the way in which they built a life based on that, or they were concerned about those people's opinions, or they took advice from those individuals. And it's like, I don't want my life to be that way. I took their advice and now I'm empty inside. So there's a sense of them needing to kind of come to terms with that, or find a way to sort of negotiate with that frustration within, so that they're not bringing chaos back towards you, but so any rekindling that's possible between the two of you, that it's based on kind of like a level of self-mastery that they're still in the midst of cultivating. Yeah, and they also say, I have everything I want except for you. Yeah, so they may appear to be very successful, very aligned with different things in the material sense, but they keep being reminded that, they have the one thing money can't buy, which is, love, which is true love, which is the type of affection and the connection that the two of you once had with one another, or had the potential to develop. And so in the midst of them kind of going through their day-to-day reality, their thoughts come back often to you. So let's get some initials. This could be a first, middle, or last name, or could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got T, Y, K, N, E, B, P, O, H, W, A, S, S, G, C, R, and I. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you would like a personal reading, there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well. Hi, group 2. You chose the clear quartz. So let's start by taking a look at what are your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the connection right now. Okay, we have between worlds, thinker, here and now, and Treasure Island. So there's a sense that they're giving a lot of thought to the next evolution between the two of you. It feels that they really like the momentum you've established with one another, times where you're really involved with one another, and other times where you kind of like, you give each other space to sort of pull back into your own energies, kind of take care of other things that you have going on within your reality. I'm hearing comfortable silence with this here and now. Like, all of that feels really good for them. All of that feels very much like the experience of like, I can be myself, and yet you hold them to a high standard. You hold them accountable in some sort of way that it feels like is very refreshing. They're thinking back even on previous people that they at one point in time had pedestalized as far as the experience of love and romance or partnership. And there's a sense of almost like what you provide to them or what they experience with you. It's like they've hit the jackpot. You're so far beyond the epitome of what they thought someone like them could attract in. There's a sense here of almost feeling like you're out of their league, and yet the fact that you have opened your life to them, you've opened your heart to them in some sort of way, it makes them feel on top of the world. It makes them feel like anybody who had taken them for granted or had rejected them or had provided them with like a poor or a broken experience of love in the past, that it's kind of like that's those people's loss, that there was nothing like wrong with them or fundamentally flawed about them. And you've helped them to kind of understand that about themselves, where there's a lot of admiration and respect that they have for you. It's like they can't imagine you not being in their life. And so there's a sense of like, what do I need to do in order to make sure that I'm pulling my weight in this circumstance so that we are able to move forward towards a better tomorrow with one another? Because I don't want you to become someone else's blessing. Even if I can't give 100% at all of the time, there's a sense of almost like I want to make up for those times where you're having to pull most of the weight in this circumstance. Either, they're busy with work, or maybe like fears that they're trying to work through, or, times where the connection's very intense and something gets triggered and they need to kind of do some of that shadow work of like, okay, yeah, this is really happening. This is really beautiful. This is really something that is in my best interests, that I am worthy of, that I am deserving of, that I have magnetized into my experience because it reflects the best of what I am or what I can be inside of myself. There's extra effort that they want to put in, or some way in which they want to celebrate you, either for holding it down for them during a period of time where there may have been something they had to walk away from, or they may be in the midst of walking away from something. This could be a transition in job. This could be some kind of loss that has happened in their personal life. And even if they've not been able to kind of share the full details of that with you, or they may have had to kind of like go and tend to certain things in order to move through that transitional period. There's a sense of almost like you stuck by them when other people would have walked away. You demonstrated a level of loyalty to them that was very surprising, and that is helping them to understand that you are somebody who is a right fit for their future. You are someone that they want to invest of themselves into in order to be able to, again, kind of come to the best version of themselves, because they're seeing that is kind of what you strive to bring to the table. Even in times where it may come across as kind of, messy, or, you got your own life, your own things going on, it's like you consistently show up. You've held space for this person to be their best self and also their worst self. and you're keeping pace with them. You're not acting like a passive doormat. You're responding to their energy. You're responding to their efforts. And this is something which it's almost like you hold them accountable, or you keep them aligned with an experience of someone who really sticks by them, somebody who motivates them when they are feeling down, like a safe place to return to after they've been in the midst of kind of working through things, or just kind of the natural ups and downs in life. It's like you're the tried and true. You're the person that's still here. You're like their day one. Since this connection has started between the two of you, it's almost like you've been there for them through thick and thin, with knowing it or without knowing it even. This person could have been going through a lot behind the scenes, or internally, might have even just gotten kind of quiet or busy and stressed out about things, and could have tried to sort of shut you out, not expose you to that, not drag you down to their level in some sort of way. And so there's a sense of like a lot of gratitude, a lot of respect that they have for that, and wanting to kind of come towards you now in this energy of like, let's do something together that kind of makes this more substantial. Let's move in the direction with one another of really helping each other very consistently along the kind of winding path of life. Because investing in you, choosing you in this connection, it's paid off handsomely. It's rewarded them richly. And it's a sense of like, you are my teammate. You are the person that I want by my side. You are that individual that I know won't leave me when times are tough. They may have had a lot of people bail on them, or just kind of, only be in it for the times when it's easy, when it's all sunshine and smiles. And it's like you've held it down for this person during the storms, during the times when they weren't so easy to deal with, when they weren't feeling so good within. You gave them a reason to smile, or you held space for them while they got their smile back. And so there's a sense of seeing that you are someone who is really good for them, not just in terms of like, I like you, or I'm attracted to you, or, our chemistry's great, the sex is great, whatever that, the conversation's great, like whatever the nature of your dynamic is with one another at this point, there's something about kind of you being like good for them as a person. You align with their future. You are not a reflection of kind of the limits of the past. You are the essence of the progress that they are evolving towards as a person, very in alignment with certain goals that they have for themselves as well. So let's take a look at some blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they're dealing with at this point in time. Okay, we have obstacles and challenges, trapped in fear, and discontent and boredom. Yeah, so there may be some things that they are in the midst of walking away from, major life transitions that they are trying to make that may involve them kind of being very busy, being kind of numb during your encounters with one another, being sort of emotionally on hold or shut down to a certain degree, maybe because of the nature of what they're tasked to deal with, whatever they do for a living, whatever is kind of like happening in their personal life at this point in time. It may be something that they can't talk about, maybe sensitive, they can't talk about it. You may be at a point in your connection where it's kind of like, it's not appropriate for them to kind of, let you know about their family struggles or what's going on at work. They're, in the nature of something that's happening at this point. something that's crumbled, something that's kind of falling apart, or what's required in order to break free of something that is kind of like dimming their light in some sort of way, moving out of unhealthy habits, a like dead-end job, a very soul-sucking reality in a lot of ways, that there's a sense of almost like fearing that you might mistake their silence or the things that they just can't talk about as evidence that they're like, they don't want you anymore, or they're kind of planning their escape from you, or, that this is just a fling, this is just something temporary, that you're not what they want. Like you and the future you can have with one another is what they want. But in order to align with that, it's like they got to break free from something like a cycle that they set in motion from their past. They may need to, branch out towards something, take a leap of faith in a new direction. And there's a sense that like you've given them good advice, or you've been like a good sounding board, a good listener. You've received them very well when they're feeling triumphant, but they may be in kind of a slump right now, sort of like, okay, this is going to be a risk for me to move off in that direction. This is going to require a lot of extra effort. It's going to take a lot of financial involvement, or I'm having to take a financial loss in order to make something possible. And so this is something where they're not wanting to kind of like, again, like burden you with anything. And so they're just keeping it all within. But there's definitely a sense here of sort of like having no other choice but to sort of take this very present approach to things, but also knowing it's like a risk or a gamble that you'll be understanding on the other side of the cycle when they resurface. Maybe it's something they can't ever talk to you about. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you're going to be okay with me just saying, hey, we can't talk about that. We need to just kind of move forward from this point. Are you going to be the person that is like, you're satisfied with that? Or are you going to be pressing them for answers? Are you going to pry? Are you going to be somebody that's like, you're not trusting them when they say there's no funny business going on, but I just can't talk about certain things? Like, are you going to go with the flow of that? Or is it something where that's going to be the deal breaker between the two of you? Maybe they work in a profession where there's like a lot of highly sensitive things going on that they can't talk about. Or it's the way in which they deal with the nature of work, or, family pressure, different things going on is kind of just like, I'm a version of myself when I'm dealing with that. But when I'm with you, I get to unplug and I'm someone else. And those two worlds can't mix. There can't be that sort of, I don't bring that home. I don't bring the office home with me. I don't want to pollute the sacred space that we have by sharing with you the nature of the present difficulties, or the things that sort of pull me maybe into a darker energy within when I'm trying to sort of sort through things. Maybe somebody that never really had anyone they could ask for help. They had to figure out a lot of things on their own. They were forced to grow up really quickly. And so although they can evolve beyond that, it's like certain aspects of this pattern, it's like, this is who I am. I don't know what you expect out of me, but there's only so much that I can grow and evolve. This aspect within, it's not a weakness, it's strength, because it's brought me forth to this point in my life. I've survived my life this long, or I've made it this far in my life based on something maybe that was never a choice. And so there's a sense of like, maybe even as you're sort of being introduced to this part of them, the problem solver that's very unemotional, very cold, very strategic, very like, this is what has to be done in the interest of the greater good, in the interest of the whatever I'm working on, in the interest of kind of getting through tough times or emotional turmoil. I got to just shut down and I got to figure out a way. And that doesn't mean I'll always be shut down and having to figure out a way, but are you okay? Can you accept that part of my personality, which other relationships may not have survived the pressure of that? Or this part of them is so different from what you normally experience, or what you have experienced in terms of like holding it down for them during like sunshine and storms. This is like a whole other level. This is like the basement level of something. and within them that's kind of like coming to the surface at this point, or that you're going to have to meet within them at a certain point. And it's kind of like, okay, is this going to be something? Can you hold space for this part of me as well? Because this is who I am. It's what's required for the nature of my incarnation, or, you know, what I have kind of going on professionally, what I'm dealing with personally. And it's no reflection of you, but it's a manifestation of something inside of me that is very survival driven. And so there's a hope that this part of them will be welcome at the table, where you are able to thrive with one another just as much as the other aspects of them that you've seen up to this point in time have been accepted, or you've held space for that, or you've even kind of, you know, encouraged this person, like, you need to change, you need to evolve beyond these things. Something, though, is kind of like, it's non-negotiable within them. It's kind of like, this must just be accepted, or we can't continue forward with one another. And so there's a sense of kind of like not really sure if you're going to be able to sort of hold space for that, or if it's like how to kind of fit that in whatever's possible between the two of you next. So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you. Okay, we have Goddess of the Moon and Man holding a coin. Yeah, so there's a sense that they want to kind of give you some affection, some display, some effort, some kind of token of appreciation. Maybe that is just like a good period of quality time with one another. This may be a gift that they want to give, an experience that they want to provide, something that kind of like lets you know, I see you. I celebrate you. I hold space for all that you are. And I'm excited and interested in kind of getting to know maybe even the more sort of shadowy aspects of your personality that haven't been brought to the surface. Something that it's like, if they know that there's this difficult component within them, then it must surely exist within you in some capacity as well. And so it's kind of like not wanting to be a hypocrite almost, and just expect you to sort of hold it down for them while they're in this kind of icy energy. But there's also a sense of like, I want to hold that space for you as well, when there's parts of you that I don't necessarily understand, that might trigger my ego or my insecurities in some sort of way. It's almost like opening the door, or presenting like an invitation to building trust with one another. That like, I'm invested in this with you in the long-term sense. And now we're entering into this phase, or I want to enter into this phase where we start to explore maybe the parts of ourselves that are a little more difficult to love and accept, both for ourselves and as others would perceive them or have perceived them in the past. Something that lets you know that even when I am distant, I am still with you. Even when I must be away, I will come home to you. Even when I am under stress or under pressure, or there's certain requirements of the life that I have built for myself, that I have to put on a particular hat and walk a very certain way through the world, that this doesn't diminish from the love and affection that I have for you. And so something that it feels like they're getting ready to present or to provide or to gift you or to offer you, that lets you know that you are that safe and sacred space that they return to. And they want to keep that door open between the two of you, and to come even deeper into this connection in whatever ways that they can, because they don't want to lose you. They don't want to miss out on this opportunity of a lifetime with you. So let's get some guidance from Spirit about the situation. we've got forgiveness. Yeah, so if your twin flame has kind of gone ghost, they've sort of dropped off the radar emotionally, even if you're still in contact with them, but they're kind of just like short in their answers. They're not really as like warm and enthusiastic as they normally are. There's an encouragement here to give them the benefit of the doubt at this particular point in time, because it feels like for a lot of you, they're going through something they either can't talk about, they don't feel comfortable talking about, they don't want to burden you with this. It's almost, I'm hearing it's not what you think. So if some of you have been like, okay, well, maybe they're seeing someone else, maybe they're having second thoughts, maybe they just played me like some other person did and the person before them, and like whatever the case may be, there's a sense of almost an encouragement here to hold space. They're going to come back around and they're going to warm back up. Something that kind of just even sort of hints in an indirect way at things they aren't comfortable talking about, or aspects within sort of their personality where they're just not at a place with you yet, or might not even be that kind of person in general, where they're going to be like, okay, so I've had to always figure out a lot of things on my own, and you know, when things get messy, when it gets stressful, when there's pressure, I just shut down, I go into this kind of robotic sort of energy, and I do what needs to be done. Like, they may not be able to articulate that for you, but there's something that's almost like they're going to hint at it, or you're going to be able to read between the lines, that may be a very necessary kind of growth period between the two of you to understand and to be able to sort of love and accept them for all that they are, as opposed to just kind of the version that is easiest to get along with. You've entered into sort of like a shadow phase, or you're about to in this circumstance, but it's bringing to mind like with this goddess of the moon, kind of like the phases of the moon. Like when we're in the new moon, you look into the night sky and you can't see the moon. It's like the dark face is all that we see. And then the moon becomes full and you're able to kind of see that light, see kind of the light of the sun reflecting off of it. So this is almost something that like, it's, the connection is still there. This person is still there, but they've kind of like retreated or switched into some sort of mode within themselves that you're not supposed to take that personally. Like, you've done nothing wrong. There's nothing of like, well, what did I say? What did I do? You know, are they going to drift away? Are they running from this? That's not like what's going on here. There's a sense that they'll be back to their old self, or they'll kind of, you know, shift out of that experience, but there's like a very good reason for what they're going through. And so you're almost sort of, part of you is almost kind of needing to just sort of hold space for not even being able to have all the answers for that. Either they can't talk about it or don't know how to articulate that. And at this point in time, perhaps, you know, for the duration of your connection, that's something that there won't ever be clarity about. But rather than leaping to conclusions that it's something very negative, you're encouraged to kind of hold space for, this is just a part of them that is worthy of respect, acceptance, and love in all the same ways that the parts of them that are a little more clear to understand, or that it's a little more obvious sort of what they're going through, or they're able to like offer that clarity, as much as you've been able to kind of embrace that, also holding space for this facet of who they are, because it's a deeper extension of like a part of them in some way. So let's get some message cards from their higher self and see what they want you to know right now. And we have, do you still have feelings for me? So with this, I'm drawn to this little kind of love note right here that again ties into this idea of like man with a coin, something that they're wanting to like do or show or provide to you that lets you know like, hey, I still love you. I still got affection for you. I'm still here. I'm still thinking about you. Some kind of little gesture that it feels like this isn't somebody that's just totally shut off their feelings and they're oblivious to, you know, anything that may be going on within you as far as confusion, as far as like any change in their behavior or the nature of their communication or how they've been showing up. They're well aware of that. They know this component of themselves. It may again be like when they are under stress, when they are under pressure, when they're dealing with certain things, what they are, dealing with professionally, or when they kind of set their sights on a very particular goal. It's like everything else sort of fades into the background, and they're very driven. They've got almost like tunnel vision towards something. They know that about themselves. They know that, and I'm hearing that's how I get things done. So this is almost something that's like, this is that drive in action. This is that kind of burst forth into creating a more expansive horizon for themselves, or busting through obstacles in some sort of way that they understand it's taken a toll on you, or it's something that will take a toll on this connection. This doesn't feel to be like a toxic trait that you're just supposed to like just deal with it. There's like a very good reason for this, or it's something that they've been able to kind of harness into the ability to like deal with some heavy things, kind of do whatever it is that they do for a living, or whatever's kind of brought them to this place in their life. It's a necessary component of how their life is designed, how they are existing in the world. And so there's something that, in order to kind of soften any hurt that may exist within you, there's this, again, this interest in something that's kind of like letting you know, like, you've not been forgotten. I'm not, pushing you away. I'm not sort of plotting my escape out of the situation with you. This is the facet of me where love is like, and affection's like on the bottom of the list, and there are practical things that I'm needing to sort of show up in a very unemotional way for. Yeah, and they also say, I know I broke your heart. So there may have been some sort of disappointment recently. Either they've been kind of, vague, they've been unavailable, they've been sort of closed off in their interactions. They may have been sort of, sharp or very firm in certain things that they said, kind of put up some boundaries, and it could have left you with a lot of questions. What did I say? What did I do? Is this just an example of like a toxic cycle that I'm needing to extract myself from? So there's something where they know they've created some sort of pain or confusion or like misunderstanding with you recently, and there's a desire to kind of soften that, not just leave you to lick your wounds on your own, but in some sort of way kind of provide you with some peace or reassurance or solace. They say, I want to do everything I didn't do before. So it feels like you're actually in the midst of like building trust with one another at this particular point in time. Like, even if they can't provide you with a lot of explanations or answers, as far as their behavior or whatever they got going on at this point in time. Again, these are not energies of someone that's out there being shady and like two-timing you and, talking to other people. This is something where it's like, if they've sort of shut down or had to redirect their focus towards something else, there's a very legitimate reason for that. And like, if you knew all the reasons or all the details, it's something you'd be like, oh yeah, just go ahead and do your thing. But they can't talk about it, or they're not at a place of feeling kind of like ready to discuss that. It's almost like you're being introduced to this component of themselves in real time, in the midst of they've shifted into that version of themselves. And so this is almost a sense of like, you're getting to know them on a deeper level, even when it feels like there may be almost like a coldness or an iciness from them. They also say, I wish I could take it all back. Yeah, so there is a sense that they wish they'd provided you with some kind of explanation, something that would help you sort of, understand kind of what they have going on, but they either can't talk about things, or, this may be something that's kind of your connection with one another as time goes on, as you evolve, as trust builds between the two of you. They may be able to start opening up to you about certain things. You may be able to, kind of have that deeper understanding, start to recognize a pattern like, hey, pressures happen at work, issues with their family, or, societal pressures, bigger goals that they have, and they get on beast mode, and they're just focused on the tasks at hand. And it may be something where, you're able to kind of start to go with the flow of that. The dance between the two of you changes somewhat. They're not leaving you behind. It's almost like, here, sit on the bench while I take care of certain things, and I'll be right back with you, and we'll resume our closeness. We'll resume the experience with one another in a more harmonious way. They understand that an abrupt change from them has left that confusion, but there's a sense of almost like there was no other way to kind of go about things than how they've gone about things. So let's get some initials. This could be a first, middle, or last name, or could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. U C H S W X L K O S H T J V R E and D. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you'd like a personal reading, there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. We chose the Seraphinite. So let's start by taking a look at what are your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the connection right now. Okay, we have a change in the wind, building blocks, Treasure Island, and No Place Like Home. I'm hearing with this building blocks, I understand you now. So there's a sense that if you're in separation from your twin flame, certain dots have started to connect within themselves that are helping them to understand it is no mistake or accident that you met one another. Something where they may be changing course or direction in their life to try and win you back, to try and do everything that they failed to do before in this circumstance, because this is almost something where you might have awakened to this connection sooner than them. You left a trail of breadcrumbs for them to follow as you parted ways, as they pushed you away, as you went through your own process of metamorphosis and have perhaps, sort of mourned this situation, chalked it up as a loss, or kind of the energy of like maybe in another lifetime or maybe never. Maybe you've gone through the process of sort of cutting cords. You've come to terms with this as an experience where you're on the earth plane, and so everybody's got free will, and if they chose not to participate in this, then it is what it is as far as this connection is concerned. There's a sense that your twin flame's in the midst of like a spiritual awakening at this point, some kind of glow up, some kind of ascension, something where they are now understanding that you are the type of person that aligns with like a higher level love, something that the version of them you were dealing with previously wasn't able to comprehend, wasn't able to receive, wasn't like conscious of kind of the deeper layers or aspects of that. Not just that you're good for them as a person, but that this is something almost like you do have like a deeper kind of soul connection or like a purpose in this lifetime. Like you're somebody that, as they are kind of looking towards the bigger picture of their life in general, all signs point towards you. They may be getting a lot of signs and synchronicities that are encouraging them to reach out, to try and make amends, to knock on that door and see, is there still a chance? There was a connection between the two of us once. Is that still viable? Have you totally moved on from this situation? And with this Treasure Island, I'm hearing I'm going as fast as I can. So it feels like they're trying to hurry to either gather resources, make plans in preparation, kind of build that courage up to speak their truth, to reach out. This feels like they know exactly how to reach you. They know exactly where to find you. They maybe are even kind of like watching from afar, kind of like lurking around, checking the perimeter, sort of like scoping out what you got going on in your life, in order to be able to kind of plan that approach. They may have also been keeping tabs on you, kind of from a fear-based energy before, very overwhelmed about the nature of the connection or experiences that you've had with one another in the past. Kind of like they didn't want anything to do with it, but they always kept one eye on you. Now it's something where they're seeing that you've kind of like up-leveled, you've had a glow up in some sort of way. What didn't make sense to them before, the way in which you've kind of shaped your reality beyond the person that they knew you as before, this is something that is very impressive to them. It makes sense to them. It's almost seeing like, wow, you were led by some kind of higher instinct. You were making your way towards this particular moment in time, and you've really come into your own. You've really blossomed. And it's not like it's like they couldn't see your worth before, but you were in the process of like becoming this version of you. And this version of you is checking off all those boxes. It makes sense. It's not like you've become worthy, but they finally gain the sight within themselves to understand that it's like, okay, this wasn't accidental that we've had this encounter, we've had this experience, we have these memories with one another. Because now it's almost like they're seeing a clearer path forward towards this future potential with you that was missing before. There's a sense that they want to provide you with a lot of truth or explanation as far as their actions or inactions in the past. So again, kind of like keeping tabs on you in some sort of way. The motive or the intention of that has changed, where it was kind of like keeping tabs on you to be standoffish has now turned into, I'm glad I kept tabs on you because now it makes sense and I'm trying to rush in and do the right thing. I'm trying to rush in and say everything that needs to be said. I'm trying to rush in because this makes sense. This is where I've always been pulled towards. It's like they were looking for that perfect person and they couldn't recognize that as you, because you needed to become someone else. And through that process of your own becoming, you have now laid the foundation of a path that is making sense to them, that they are following along with, energetically or actually. Anything you've invested in as far as like wellness, spirituality, glow up, anything that kind of like has brought you to a place of peace and expansion. This resonates completely with everything that they needed to hear, but didn't know how to kind of like ask for or couldn't find elsewhere. It's like you walked through that fire first, and that is kind of like compelling them or motivating them or drawing them into facing fears, conquering obstacles, going through the tough process of shedding versions of themselves, fighting against the current in order to kind of reach this new territory with you. And it all makes sense. There's a fear that you won't accept them after what has happened. But then there's also a sense of like, if anyone would understand or be able to like hold space or would hear me out for like, I was blind before, but now I see, not as a way to make excuses, but like literally I've gained my spiritual sight. I've had some kind of awakening. Things have happened. Circumstances have changed. I'm changing as a person. Like you're that person that would get it because it aligns with the path that you've been on. You've been the leader in this situation while they have been largely asleep in the material realm. You and their higher self have been walking hand in hand, already in that union energy. And now they're in the process of actively uniting with their own higher self to be able to embody consciously the material manifestation of themselves that aligns with that higher level you. So they're very awake to this connection. They're very aware of it. For a lot of people, they may think of you as their soulmate, For a portion of you, they've looked into twin flames and that resonates and it all makes sense now. That process of kind of, the death, rebirth, the phoenix from the ashes, all of that is aligning with their experiences. They go through things and it aligns with what you've gone through. Things are happening in their life and it aligns with things you've spoken of to them or, indirectly to other people. You've got social media and you've been posting things. You've been, putting things out there or, anything you have going on in terms of your life, your lifestyle, your habits, what has drawn you towards it in terms of like a spiritual path or a healing path that they would have some awareness of, that you're open about with others or that you've even given hints and indicators of. All of that is something which is holding a lot of truth for them. And it's helping them to see like you are always one another's perfect match, but it's this version of you coming out of this kind of dim reality into something that's more vibrant and full color. This is where you were always meant to be. And so there is a sense of like wanting to do things right in terms of turning the page between the two of you, but not wanting to like wait too long. It's like times of the essence, because they're also the sense of sort of like actions that they've taken in the past to kind of shut this down or push you away. There's a sense of like, you're not going to remain available forever. If you're single, you're not going to remain single forever. Even if you're their soulmate, even if you're their twin flame, there's a sense of like the universe would not have put somebody like you through everything that you've been through just to hold space for somebody like me who has, woken up after the fact and is trying to like rush forth. They may sense that there's competition around or that you're vibing at such a high frequency that like someone else is going to come in and they're not going to run in the opposite direction. They're going to pull you closer. So I need to get in there while the getting's good. And so there's a sense of almost like planning, strategizing, picking their moment, but knowing that they cannot wait. They can't just take this leisurely approach. There's something like, yeah, I'm swimming against the current. I'm having to fight my pride and ego. I'm having to say I was wrong and you were right. Or I see the light now. Having to have that difficult conversation. Having to face the possibility that you'll reject them. That they messed this up in this lifetime. That's just how the cookie crumbles. But there's a sense that they're holding on to like, what if there's still a chance? What if there's still hope? What if I am now lucid and aware of this, of you, of this experience? I'm open to it. I'm seeing the signs and synchronicities and I'm not trying to like explain that away. I'm not leaning into like fear-based programming. I'm believing the universe is conspiring in my favor as opposed to being an oppositional force and energy. Like, what if there's still time for us? What if it's not too late? And there's almost a sense of kind of like surrendering to the process of whatever happens between the two of you. They're aware of something as far as like fate or destiny in this circumstance. Like they just can't get over you. They just can't push this away. And they've gone through the full range of sort of like what would be the reasons for that up to this point. And now they're in this place of like, there must be something good that's supposed to come out of this. Either you reject them and it creates a new kind of narrative for their own personal growth arc, which it feels like they're working up kind of the strength within to accept that if that's your decision, or you welcome them home with open and loving arms, and this love story can take on its next manifestation. All will be right in the world, and you move forth together as one. They're very excited about that possibility, but it feels like they're also investing in the alternative. What if you push them away? What if trust has been so shattered that it can't be rebuilt? What if things were said that created such damage that there's no way to kind of move forward beyond that? What if closure is the best that can happen here and there is no restart? They're trying to kind of work up the courage to accept whatever your decision is. They don't want to bring misery to you. They don't want to bring chaos. They don't want to bring confusion. They see how much you've invested in becoming a different version of yourself. So there's a sense that there's a lot of support that they're giving you for that from afar. They admire that, they respect that a lot, and they really see what they missed out on. They feel like they deprived themselves and you of the experience of, we didn't need to go through this alone. We could have done this hand in hand. Even though it feels like you were maybe more aware or awakened to this connection sooner than them. So there's also a sense of kind of like, even if I had just fully trusted in this, I wasn't operating on the same vibration as you were. You were the more spiritually evolved one. You were the more sensitive one. You were the more aware one. You're the more awakened one. You're the one who was tapped on the shoulder by the universe to go through this process as vividly as you have first. And so there's a sense of almost like trying to come to the place, like if you take them back in, then it's not just kind of like, okay, now I'm going to piggyback with you along, the rest of our journey with one another. But it's like, if you'll allow them back in, then that kind of like they're having to be more reciprocity, or that role having to shift in some sort of way where they are the one leading the connection forward. Because it's like you've held on to that belief yourself long enough. You've done the heavy lifting long enough. You've done all this hard work for long enough. And so it's kind of like, what can I provide? What can I present beyond things in the material sense? What can I provide in terms of knowledge, in terms of information, in terms of open-mindedness, in order to be able to receive you as you are and to also fulfill my role in this connection? So let's take a look at some of the blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they're dealing with right now. Okay, we have triumph, hope, and victory and success. Yeah, so they feel like a fool for doubting you, for doubting the connection, for missing out on an experience with you. There's a sense that there's a fear that it's too little too late, that the door of opportunity has closed, or like a grain of hope that might have existed has now become extinguished or is on its way to doing that. Like you've waited long enough. You've grieved this connection. You've moved forward in your life. There may be indicators of that in terms of your vibe, your glow up, what you have going on in your life, what your focus is, who you're surrounded with, where you are in your life. You may have moved away. You may be living an entirely different life than when they were last in contact with you. And so there's a fear of almost like maybe we don't align with one another anymore. Even if it's a soul connection, even if it's twin flames, that doesn't mean that there's supposed to be anything in the material sense, that it's like a 100% guarantee of like romantic 3D union, riding off in the sunset, happily ever after, like it's a movie. Like this is real life. That's not how it works. And so there is a sense of kind of like maybe you have now become this karmic lesson for them, and that there'd be no one to blame but themselves. There's also a sense of kind of like, what if they bring in an aspect of them because they feel behind in some way compared to where you're at in your journey, in life in general or spiritually. And it's like, what if I hold you back? What if I derail your progress in some way? What if I tear asunder everything you've worked so hard for? What then? It's almost like they wouldn't be able to forgive themselves for setting you off course in some sort of manner. And so there's a sense of like, unless I can come in and be a productive partner, maybe I'm best serving this situation by just consciously feeding energies in from the higher realm, conscious awareness, prayers that they send out for you, loving vibes that they send from afar. Maybe that's the best they can do by you in this circumstance, so that at least you can move on and have a beautiful life. Even if they need to just be a memory or a painful memory, at least you'll have the opportunity to rise, to shine, to be the sun in somebody else's sky. But there's like hope within that it's not too late. Yeah, this is real life, but maybe this is a circumstance where this can be that cinematic. He comes in and saves the day. the knight in shining armor. Right when that door's about to close, he gets in there. He makes the circumstance right. He turns it around for the two of them. Like, this person's trying to envision themselves in that energy. Like, I can do that. This is this moment for that burst forward where I'm pulling out all the stops. I'm getting creative. I'm getting inventive with the ways in which I am perfecting and fine-tuning myself energetically, emotionally, actually, to be able to provide you a resonant experience that is equal to or as close to that as possible with all of the beautiful work that you've done to lift yourself up in your life. Actually, energetically, spiritually, all of the above. There's a sense of like, I want to feed that kind of an experience into this situation. And I hope that what I have to bring to the table is enough. And I don't know if it is, but I'll never know unless I present myself to you directly. So let's take a look at their potential actions towards you. Okay, we have victory and magician and the mirror. Yeah, so triumph and victory. This is somebody who is very determined to enact some sort of plan of action, to dazzle you, to amaze you, to provide you with some kind of concrete understanding of like, I am growing, I am evolving, I am giving it my all, I'm trying the best I can to rise to the occasion, to meet you where you are at, to invest in this situation in the ways in which I had deprived us of an experience with one another before. I let my fears and doubts take over, to kind of move beyond the unconscious or sleeping version of them that couldn't comprehend what you were offering in the past, that didn't have the capacity to hold space for the etheric experience between the two of you. You may have been kind of like fumbling your way through this, trying to find answers, trying to find kind of like reason behind something that took you very much by surprise. And they didn't help at all with their kind of approach to the circumstance previously. And so there's a sense of like, let me show you the ways in which I've evolved. Let me show you the ways in which I am now awake. I am now aware. And I'm not just going to approach you with like, okay, now I'll hear you out. Now I'm going to see things from your perspective. Now, everything you were saying before, it's starting to make sense. Or now I feel the love. No, this is somebody that it feels like they want to show you that they've evolved spiritually, that they've evolved as a person, that they have evolved emotionally. And that it's not just, okay, I did some work. I, went on this weekend retreat. I drank this ayahuasca. I took these mushrooms and now everything's better. Now I get it. Now I see myself and the world differently. And so let's go. Let's have this higher vibrational connection. No, this is somebody that's been doing the shadow work. They've been going inside. They've been taking in a lot of information. They've been exploring a lot of different pathways to becoming. And so there's a sense that they want to bring to the table this like higher vibrational experience for you. Somebody that's not just going to show up and you buy that little house with the little white picket fence, 2.5 kids and a dog, and you're just sort of going through the motions like every other Joe out there. No, this is an experience of like, I want to move forth into something different. I want to have that experience with you where this is a higher level love. This is a deeper type of experience. This is something that defies what I've known before. And that used to frighten me. And now it's something that I look at it as a treasure because it's better than what other people have. We're not just settling into misery with one another. This is an experience of like the adventure of a lifetime. And I can't think of anyone else I'd want to have that adventure with than you. So let's get some guidance from Spirit for you about the situation. Okay, we have blessings. Yeah, so this is the sense of just, continue to be very grateful for the things that are going well in your life. Continue to, keep that optimistic attitude that as you kind of sing your own tune, you kind of march to the beat of your own drum, that you will align with beautiful experiences. If you're resonating with this group with this reading right here, then you've probably gone through some process of trying to release your twin flame, trying to kind of like create that closure, sort of let that go, water under the bridge, create your own vindication, or learn to live with the mystery of the experience and kind of accept it for what it is. Chalk it up to the fact that, hey, we live in the free will, 3D realm, and just because there's a soul connection doesn't mean that every person is gonna like get on board with that enthusiastically. Whatever you've done to kind of separate that aspect, or kind of compartmentalize that disappointment for yourself of what you thought might have happened, or maybe even watching a lot of kind of twin flame content over the years, maybe even on a long-term journey with this person. It's like, well, I guess it's not going to work out for us in the here and now. I guess the information I've been given or I've taken in, or what has applied for other people in their circumstance, I guess that's not meant for me. It's not meant for us. That's not part of our journey. Whatever you've needed to do to kind of create that peace for yourself and bravely move forth towards other experiences, or, kind of focusing on discovering your purpose in this life, fulfilling that mission that your soul set out to accomplish when you chose to incarnate in this reality as yourself. There's a sense of like, continue to go with that, but allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised by what it feels like for a lot of you your twin flame is kind of gearing up to do. For others, even if they're in this energy of certainty, being so certain or desirous of something is very different from taking action steps towards that. So just because this feels very hopeful, that may just be something that kind of like shifts the way in which you connect or experience your twin flame energetically. There's no guarantee that they're going to do anything about that though. And it may be too little too late. If you're in this high vibrational energy, kind of like you've blossomed, you've come into your own, it's not like they're the only game in town. You may notice that there are other high vibrational suitors, people that align with like this version of you that you've self-created, or that you've resurrected from the ashes, who you've become through your life experiences and through the lessons that this journey has taught you. It may be that now, your free will is kind of activated in the sense that even if this twin flame comes back around, maybe you're going to say, no, I'm going to hold out for something better. I give myself grace enough that I can't get over that hurt. I don't think I'll ever be able to trust you again. Or, it is too little too late. I've evolved into a place where it is not necessary for us to have any kind of contact in the 3D sense, for me to still just sort of, call it an is what it is sort of thing that, is unfathomable, the rhyme and the reason of it by the human mind, and I'm still progressing forward with my human life. Or maybe you meet someone and this person comes back around, you're like, yeah, that's great, thanks for letting me know, but I've already found someone else. So best of luck to you. Hope you find what you're looking for, with someone else. And I hope you have a beautiful life. Like whatever it is that sort of resonates for you, whatever you need to do in order to like stay aligned within yourself so that you are able to continue to kind of radiate at that frequency of what is meant for you won't pass you by. But you also need to swim. You also need to put in that action, that effort to really go after what you want. Seize the moment, seize the opportunity, seize the day, and co-create that dream reality for yourself in all way, shape, and form with the universe that is concurrent to the intentions that you set for various manifestations, for happiness, for fulfillment, for peace, for love, for wealth, for whatever that looks like for you. Continue to focus on that. Continue to do you, and trust that the chips will fall where they may in this circumstance. You're definitely the prize in this situation, so it does not serve you to kind of like backtrack at this point, or to kind of accept less than you deserve. Like you've gone through some kind of purification process. You've risen from the ashes. And so now the ball is in your twin flames court in order to bring something to the table that may or may not align. The reality of that may or may not align with kind of what you're looking for, or who you've now become at this point. So let's get some message cards and see what else they want you to know from their higher self. Okay, and they say, I talked to someone close about you. So they definitely could be watching twin flame videos, twin flame readings, looking into spiritual material, or, different kind of teachers or gurus or motivational speakers, information that you've been taking in as well, kind of following in your footsteps, to sort of understand what it is that you understand. There may even be people in like a mundane sense that they're not really getting into kind of the spiritual components with the situation about, but it's almost like people in their life, like, I messed up, I didn't follow my heart, I didn't listen to my instincts, I wasn't ready for what they were offering in the past, but I see now, like, I didn't find what I was looking for elsewhere. Nobody else fulfills me in the same way that this person does. And I don't know how to come back around. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to turn this situation around, but I miss this person. They're my person. I want to give this a chance. And so they may be getting advice from people, from a variety of sources, as far as like how to do that, what to say. They also say, I'm taking time away so I can understand my feelings. So it feels like they have evolved a lot since you were last in contact with them, emotionally, spiritually, actually. There's a sense that the intensity of the connection, the way in which you presented yourself to them, feelings that surfaced within, they were very overwhelming, and the instinct was to push it away. It felt foreign to them, and so they kind of dismissed it as like a fear of the unknown, a fear of the other, and this is something that it feels like they've transcended. They're trying to sort of understand their motives so that they are not, if you take them back in, if you would kind of like hear them out or give them an opportunity to reconcile, there's a sense of almost like, I don't want to push you away again. I know I have one chance to get this right, so unless I steady myself or even surrender to the process of the reality of understanding, it may be messy to come back in. I may need to break down and cry. I may need to be vulnerable. Maybe something where you're not just like, hey, you knocked on my door, you showed up in my DMs, you called, you texted, you emailed, you're here now. Great, okay, welcome home. It may be something that like trust being built is a slow process for the two of you. So they're trying to kind of look at things from all angles in that sense. That maybe it will just be fast reunion, you look at one another and you kiss and make up, and that's that, and it's beautiful from that point forward, or it may be a little more tedious than that. And so trying to kind of be ready for anything, hoping for the best, but also ready for the possibility of rejection. They also say, I fantasize about making love to you. Yeah, so they're trying to kind of imagine the best case scenarios, trying not to get wrapped up in the possibility of rejection, or the sense that you're just like, I don't want to hear from you. It's too little, too late. You should have done something when you had the opportunity. It's a sense of like trying to kind of get in alignment with the vibration of like kiss and make up, all will be well, and using that as kind of the compass by which they determine actions that they take forward, ways in which they confront parts of themselves that were sort of shut down to this, or as they continue along their own awakening and ascension journey, and trying to find like, how does this intersect with ways I can in the material world take steps back towards you. Yeah, and they also say, I think about being alone with you. I long to kiss you. So they really do want to kiss and make up. They want to make up for lost time. They want to have all the conversations that they didn't have before, confess the feelings that they were uncertain of, or they were overwhelmed by, or maybe even like feelings that have developed for you in the times that since you've been apart. Since they've, kind of checked in from a different intention. You've softened their heart in some sort of way. They see you from a different perspective, or they see you for the person that you've become. And there's a lot of respect and admiration for that. And so there's a sense that it might not have been the right time for you before, or they messed things up before, but they would like the opportunity to try and make things right, to get back on point with you, to evolve and grow beyond what the past has been like between you. So let's get some initials. This could be a first, middle, or last name, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got P, H, N, A, L, F, T, J, T, S, and H. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you'd like a personal reading, there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well.